Not Board of Education. Not Board of Education. Cobb County celebration. Helping kids, no hesitation. Not Board of Education.
Well, welcome back, everybody. This is Laura Judge with your Not Board of Education, here with
Andrew Cole. Like Laura just said, it's good to be with everyone. It's been a few months.
Yes, but a few months, mainly because, summertime, we both have children, we have busy lives, but, I also had some personal issues going on. I was a full-time caretaker for my mother, and she just recently passed right before school started. So I was kind of dealing with that and couldn't get on camera because I was kind of looking a mess.
I mean, it's all too understandable, and I know I speak for many when I say, obviously how sorry we are, but also how grateful we are to have met her and to have you in the world. And I think you'll be a great torchbearer to kind of continue her legacy. And um, I know that you've told me before that she is part of the reason you do what you do. But what else would you say in that area?
Well, thank you. And I want to thank everybody who sent a card, sent me meals, kind of was just there to talk about things. But yeah, a lot of my advocacy is really because of how my parents were, especially my mom. My mom really cared about kids. She was both a social worker with the Head Start movement. And then she was also a teacher, mostly dealing with preschool age children. And she just loved every kid as her own, and I kind of take it that way too, just making sure kids thrive in their environment. Something that was mentioned at her funeral was that, she was big on donating school supplies to Title I schools and making sandwiches for kids that were in need, and just making sure, even for getting out of high school into college, she was part of the National Association of University Women, and she would hound people to make sure that their kids were filling out their scholarship applications so that, they could get money to go to college. Education was huge in my family, and just making sure that kids had what they needed was really big to her. And so, like you said, torchbearer. In my last few months of caretaking, I probably said apple and tree so many times because I truly my mother's daughter.
In a very, very good way.
Yes.
And I
And bad ways too, but 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 we won't go into all of those. But when it comes to kids and education, absolutely.
yeah, well, good. Um, yeah, well, what would you like to? Where would you like to begin? A lot has happened over the last few months.
Well, yeah, I mean, so while we might not have been on camera talking to each other, holding a podcast, we were still watching school board meetings. And one of the big things that came out the last school board meeting, obviously, is that public comments were um, decided to be removed by the superintendent.
They did what? I haven't heard about this. That sounds really sneaky.
Yes, so it was a board policy with our board members, but the superintendent, who's over operations, decided to make a change in board policy and have the board vote on this change, and that was to stop broadcasting public comment. So while you're still able to have public comment, which is required by law, they will no longer broadcast said comments.
Yes. So, and not even recorded. There's no way if you're not there at the meeting, you'll no longer be able to know what or if anyone spoke during that segment. They haven't really clarified how it's going to be handled. We'll find out soon. But I anticipate they'll just put up some sort of placeholder screen and say public comment. The broadcast will resume at the end, something like that, which is a fine way to go about things if the change was needed, but I don't think it was. And we'll go into that for sure.
Same. And then also something that was stated was that, media is there. Uh, Andrew, you know as well as I, normally the only media there for both meetings is the Marietta Daily Journal. If there is any like local news media, your ABC, NBC news channels, 11 Alive, um, they normally only come to the evening meetings, but normally they don't have a camera crew set up to record public comment. A lot of times they just pull from the school board live feed of what public comment has. So it's really hard to still get what was said, and the intensity or passion that it's said with, um, through just print media.
I think that's a good clarification, and I know we'll have a whole deeper dive, and the uh, I guess everything we're going to talk about today is all kind of connected, because there have been some changes in the marketing team's budget and their work recently. Their very publicized work recently, and we could
Mhm,
go over that, and then just the fact that all of this is connected to community engagement and the fact that this is all Cobb's system and
mhm,
no one really owns it. We're all working in it, at it, for it, with it, all the prepositions. And that's how it can be its best and serve the most, which is why I think going right back to public comment change that policy, that's so significant. And with what you said about the fact that when it's written down, you or if it were written down, you would lose the energy and sometimes tenacity of what's being delivered and how much someone cares. And as we've covered before, it's not even easy to sign up and to speak, and even that process is made a little difficult slash intimidating. I mean, I know if it was your first time and you're trying to figure out how to go through it, there's definitely no one who is greeting you with an open arm and walking you through all the steps. So it's it's definitely doing the county a disservice to not be able to check back in if they're not able to attend a meeting. I know it's been nice for me. You can put it on play and have that going while you're getting dinner ready or something like that and catch up.
mhm.
And that'll no longer be the case. Yeah, do you know, is there anyone in particular or a group or an organization that has committed or publicly put together a plan on sharing it? Because I know feasibly anyone could still go to a meeting and anyone could still film and broadcast. The superintendent even said so at that meeting. Yeah, what's going on there?
So, not publicly. I have not heard anyone publicly state that they're going to do it. I know at the meeting where this change was proposed that people did show up with cameras and mics, to sit at the podium. And, just knowing how um, this district has a tendency to change policy each meeting based on things not going the way that they expect them to go. Um, there has been people worried about, who's able to film, whether or not they have a press pass to stand up to film. Where can mics be located? And those who might not want to be on camera. Um, and then just the space to put things at. I know you and I have public pages from when we were candidates, but we don't have the reach that Cobb County School System does with, um, even with them broadcasting on a closed circuit, um, TV or, where they broadcast the, school board meetings. And before I ask you, why do you think that they removed it or what was their reasoning why they removed it. Um, I had heard from teachers and parents that are just too busy, kind of like you had mentioned before, to make it to meetings, and they'll just put it on and listen. Because again, our school board meetings happen normally on the third Thursday, normally the morning meeting where most of the business is done, which is why it's called the working session, happens during school hours or during working hours. So people can't always make those meetings. But when teachers or anybody, even parents, come and they give their testimony through public comment, admins at individual schools can make their changes as needed because, the superintendent has given each school kind of a bit of autonomy to do what's in the best interest of their community. But if that community voice is shut off, then how does that school know how to make that change?
Yeah, completely. I've always liked too how it just serves as a natural time capsule.
Mhm.
I mean, you could go back to the fun days of 2020 and very accurately uh, get a feel for where everyone was
Mhm.
emotionally at that time and what was mattering the most to people. So, like for historical purposes, even I think it's a valuable thing. But you also get immediate and verifiable documentation of the fact that everyone was made aware of a certain issue at that
Mhm.
exact time because I'm looking at it. There's a
Mhm.
person speaking, and there's a dais full of a bunch of officials and district leaders. And so, very clearly, they know about it as of this day and this time. So, no matter what happens next, we have some official documentation regarding awareness.
And then
And
I
yeah,
was
well,
also
yeah,
gonna say, like, you because sometimes we're in our silos with our community schools, like you're in West Cobb, I'm in East Cobb, you know, East Cobb had a problem with um anti-Semitic actions where people were putting swastikas on the walls and things like that. And a South Cobb school or Campbell High School at the time, they started a program, a student-led program called Speak Up, Speak Now, which they were dealing with anti-Semitism in their schools as well. And so we didn't know until these community parents got together, and it included more than just the Jewish parents that were talking within their synagogues and everything else when they would meet up. It involved the rest of the community to know that this was an ongoing problem where we're having anti-Semitic actions happening in our middle and high schools. And it's not just the East Cobb area, it also included the South Cobb area. And then more parents were coming in to say other things as well of what we saw. And all of that started through public comment, that it's um, not just a Pope issue where there was the swastikas on the wall. It was, you know, a potentially a district-wide issue. And I think when you remove public comment like that, um, and the district likes to play semantics that public comment is not being removed, it's just not being broadcast. But when you censor people like that and you can't have access to those comments, then you don't know what's happening within your district. The transparency, about how we work together as this one team that they wanna promote, um, is just gone. It's fully gone from access to the community.
yes, it is. And I think that was the goal. And I think it's unfortunate, but they take steps here and there, little ones, big ones, every year to further remove themselves from public access and public interaction to the point that the group that voted for this and introduced it has they routinely reflect on and explicitly refer to the nature of our board meetings as board meetings that are held in public. This
Mm-hmm.
is not a public meeting. They don't
Mm-hmm.
want they don't want the public. And I think that is really odd. I don't envy and I understand the fact that public scrutiny is daunting. And I no one can argue that. But that's the nature of the department and the
Being
position.
in
And I think,
public office.
yeah, well, public
You and I
office,
both
yeah,
know we've ran for office. We've had public scrutiny. You know, people question our motives, and you either answer or you ignore, but you don't shut people out. Um, I
yeah,
mean, minus like being threatened, um, but it's just, yeah, it's the nature of the beast, unfortunately, of being in public office. So, Andrew, tell me why the district, their reasoning for turning the broadcast of these public comments off.
yes, yeah. The word that comes up more than any other is tortuous, and anything that could be uh, related to or become part of a civil lawsuit because of some sort of claim like defamation, which is very interesting because, to your point, you're in the public eye, someone is agreeing to speak publicly. It's very clearly not the organization or any member of the district in that capacity speaking on behalf of the schools, the system, the county. So I I think liability in that area is nil. I think even incidental inclusion of language from a book or audio, even if it's not public domain, isn't going to be some sort of suable offense because of copyright infringement, or like that was another reason they provided. This is a public comment. Very clearly, everyone is participating in this segment of the meeting as a viewer or a speaker, and everyone's on the same page. This was someone came in here. No one knows what's going to be said by this person. They're doing it themselves. So, in that, whatever is being said is going to be tied to them and not the district. So that and then we've had official members of, well, let's go into the the general like First Amendment considerations too. But when it comes to those legal sensitivities and worries, multiple uh, experts in the area have already said that, no,
Yeah.
this is not a
There
thing.
was actually an article by a lawyer for Georgia, excuse me, Georgia First Amendment, that basically said that this is kind of unprecedented. Like, this is an excuse because they're afraid of what might be said, and their fear is no true reason to censor the rest of the community. It just doesn't make sense.
No, no, it is all the pile of reasons they create. Well, here, let me pull it up. This will be fun. Um, okay, so they being the district with our marketing team that recently got a, how much
$1
was the
million
raise? That's right. That's right.
budget increase.
They produced a PDF, kind of like a white paper type thing that just summarizes the policy changes. Um, legal risks like copyright or defamation, which the district wants to avoid. Again, not a concern. Please show me where anything like this has led to a lawsuit that's been found to have standing and gone all the way to trial and resulted in some sort of legal or financial uh, outcome that negatively impacted the district. I've never heard of one. It's possible one has happened, but I
It
think this
sounds
is
like you
made
come
up.
from a family of lawyers, Andrew.
I do. I did not carry the past 2 generations have been, and then I dropped the ball on that one. The vast majority of school districts do not broadcast public comments. Doing so is not legally required. I don't
So I
care.
like that. Other people don't do it, so we don't have to.
Yeah.
That's a
We've been doing it for 20 years, and we're gonna stop now because people realized that when they spoke in front of us, those video clips became video clips, and they
mhm.
could be shared. Which again, like, I think that's valuable, and you, uh there is a pressure that is put on every participant in board operations when that video is created. And I think long term, one way or the other, no matter who or party or anything, it is going to lead to a bunch of productive pressure to have a discussion, form a committee, listen to more constituents, delay a vote. All of that has been outcomes of public comments in the past. And I think this move was, as we've covered, like done deliberately for certainly efficiency, but for streamlined endeavors for the majority, the board majority. Other reasons: the public will still have full opportunity to speak at meetings during designated times. That's good. They're not getting rid of the fact that public comment exists. It's just going to be a lot harder for anyone to find it, and it'll
Mhm.
be kept separate. Uh, w- uh, it's it's not that it's different. It's just separate but equal. Like that's always worked out really well in American history. The public is encouraged to resolve concerns directly with the school staff when possible. Completely agree. Very much support that. Normally, people don't take time out of their day to write a 2-minute comment, go all the way to downtown Marietta on a Thursday evening to speak in front of the board when they haven't tried other avenues. People arrive at this place because something isn't working and they've typically tried other methods, or they're here because they want everyone to know. And this is a town hall of sorts, and it's a great way to create public awareness.
What if it's
Yeah,
not just a school issue? What if it's a district-wide issue? Like, wouldn't you go to district staff and your school board member? So, I mean, if I need to speak to the superintendent, the only way that I could speak to the superintendent is during public comment. He's not just scheduling sit-down meetings with the community members.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and if he is, I'm sure it's probably very similar to our vice chair, where it has to be you and you alone. It won't be a group of people. Um, and a lot of gaslighting may or may not happen in said meeting. And sometimes you just need to say what's happening for the community to know what's happening.
Completely. And uh, then other reasons I've heard people are saying, well, maybe it's because of what's been said recently. And they even comment on this too. Some community members avoid commenting for fear of online harassment or being broadcast. So that might be. And they want to be able to speak to the board without it being recorded or documented because they don't want to receive that public feedback. So you could use private channels of communication, direct meetings. I think if the board and the superintendent really, because that was heavily explored right before they voted on the policy change that they knew that they were going to approve the second the superintendent asked for it. The members of the board majority and the superintendent kept coming back to this one saying, no, I hear from a lot of people who want to speak and they don't want to be seen. They don't want to have the harassment online and be doxxed. They say doxxed all the time because it's really hard
Because they
to
have
find out
actually doxed
information.
us.
Yeah, but like, okay, I don't love how accessible everyone's personal information is anymore or now, but I there's no reason to broadcast it at a public comment, but I don't think that's been an issue as far as public
No,
interaction.
because during public comment, our names are not normally
Yeah,
put up
that's
on the
true.
screen. We do say them, or when we sign up, they have our name so that they can introduce us as the speaker. But again, that's part of public comment. As someone who's an advocate for schools and students in many spaces, when I make public comment at the Georgia legislature, when I make public comment at our county commission meetings, that same information is given. If people want to take a clip of me and do something, and that just happened. Someone made an AI image of myself using the angry black woman trope. That is part of being accessible to the public, but also because I speak up and speak out, um, I can also call you out on what you're saying about me, um, which made that person mad, even though they were anonymous. I don't know who you are, but
How
if you
brave.
want to, make fun of me for how I speak up in public, or you know, do an AI image of me, that is part of me being in the public. And if I don't like it, then I won't be in the public. I will just, and I also do this as well as I schedule meetings with legislators, with county commissioners, with, you know, people that either at my school or work at the district level or my board member. I haven't, to be completely clear, I haven't scheduled a meeting with my board member because I really don't need to have one currently. Um, because what I have been dealing with on a district level has been happening for years. So one
Mhm.
board member is not going to change that. You have to have buy-in from all the board members to get anything voted on, or at least four. And currently, that's not happening with how hyper partisan our board is. And so, really, the only thing that you can do is speak up at public comment and have it documented.
Yes, yeah. And we've covered before too. I mean, even then, if they know there's going to be some sort of organized fervor, they've taken measures to try and hinder people from signing up. They moved it outside last minute. Uh, a couple, gosh, yeah, 2 years ago now. How
Yeah.
time does fly.
Yes,
And
they've also, uh, when, Wheeler had their name changed because Wheeler High School is named after a Confederate general who has nothing to do with Marietta,
yeah,
or Cobb County. Um, the students had organized to basically come in succession so that they had a longer public comment, and they stopped students from speaking without having a parent there. Um and yeah, they were a school group and they had a, a guardian or someone above 18 that represented all the kids, and that was never a problem before, but then they started enforcing that if you're under 18, and we're talking about 16, 17, and 18-year-olds at Wheeler High School came to speak up. Um, and they stopped that. They stopped interaction with board members. So, um, public comment has been changed over the years
my
from
gosh.
online to in-person sign up to,
Yeah.
just, and so the district, I feel, and even some of the board members are looking at a way to stop people's voices from being heard. And it's really upsetting because we are supposed to be one team, one goal. Um, as a team, there are ways that you can improve. And if you're getting mad at public comment for looking at ways that we can improve or being critical of you as a district, then are we truly a team? And I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah. You are correct. And the motivation is just, well, actually, I can talk about the motivation in a second. I wanted to also comment when you were speaking about the methods of hindering people and how they've stacked them. They've just added. They shrink the amount of time. They add more hurdles to sign up. they add more qualifiers to sign up. Just those methods are. I referenced like the separate but equal treatment earlier. The methods are the same as what's been used to like, limit voting access in the past. Where we're not saying you can't vote. We're just you gotta pass this reading test first.
Hmm.
So like, don't. Oh my gosh, we
You have to
would
have a valid
never.
ID.
Yeah, we would. Oh my, I can't believe you would say that about me. I support your right to vote. Just do this first. Oh, and there's going to be a small fee. Like
Hmm.
it's the methods are parallel to that where they make it harder and harder because they don't want any sort of uh, negative light to be cast. But I think that keeps you on the right track. And if no one's correcting you, then what you're doing might be okay. Or maybe you just don't know. And that's the part that I think is sad in all this is there is such an echo chamber effect with that group that's running things, literally railroading things right now. In that I think there is a general lack of awareness with other perspectives. And then when they're presented, they're dismissed as oh, extremist rhetoric, activism. They use that word as if it's a bad thing to speak on behalf of someone. And there has been too much activism recently, clearly, because uh, over the last few months we've had members of our transportation support mechanics come out and ask for improvements, better uh, safety measures taken in their workshop, better pay, better benefits. They've mentioned and cited the fact that other nearby districts provide a better compensation package. And that's not being horribly critical of the district. It's saying, hey, uh, I'm going to go over there if like could y'all match this please so I could
Hmm.
stay put. And I think that's a reasonable request. They had tried to have multiple meetings, they were dismissed. One of the leaders uh, during a second meeting told members of our our team, uh, oh sorry, I don't remember that meeting, and just completely had forgotten, apparently. Someone saying, what we're doing right now is not safe. We don't have enough people. We're wearing ourselves thin. We're working too many shifts. We're worried about the safety of our buses. That's what pushed them to go all the way to a public forum. I mean, what have you heard about bus safety? Well, I mean, you saw some over on the East Cobb side on the first day of school, right?
Yeah, so a couple buses broke down. The parents were complaining it took 3 times to get a working bus to pick up their children and bring them home. Um, I mean, that shouldn't really be happening. I know we're still in the process and it's a long process of replacing our buses. It pretty much comes up almost every meeting. But even when the maintenance crew came and did public comment and said that they're worried about this, they had exhausted all basically their chain of command that they had to come to public comment. And unfortunately, Cobb County School District has had this issue where people exhaust the chain of command um, and have to go up to the district level. One of our Facebook groups started because of the chain of command being exhausted and the parent just never being listened to. And yes, it became a legal issue where someone was arrested for, assaulting a child. And it should never get to that point. And yes, the board member at that time, I was sitting in a meeting with this parent and the board member at the time, they're no longer on the board, saying, "You talked to me? I don't remember that." And that's really hard when, you know, we're talking about the safety of our children. So, and we're looking at 2 different things that still involve the safety of our children. My example included the assault of a child. Your example includes the safety of our children on the buses, um, and and how safe our buses are running in those streets, and we're talking about tons of weight, getting into a accident. I think there's actually an article today, and we're talking to each other Friday, um, August 15th, so depending on how clips come out of this,
Uh-huh.
but there was an article today, August 15th, about a bus getting into an accident. Now, it was not the bus driver's fault, it was the other vehicle's fault that hit the bus. Those parents are worried about their kids on the bus because once they're on the bus from the bus stop, they are in, you know, the care of the school district. And, that's why we our board members and the district as a whole talks about, making sure your kid rides the bus to school because then they're not considered late, and then, anything happens, is all under the district. Um, well, now we have a group of people that work on our buses, and they're saying that they're not safe, and they're, again, trying to take away public comment and or the broadcast of public comment, and we don't even know what the investigation looks like into the safety of these buses, because they don't wanna talk about it. And, it comes down to a transparency thing, and again, we're talking about the safety of kids, which is very frustrating when people don't wanna, have that conversation, when it's fairly simple. Um, you can always say, "No, I don't have all the answers yet, but this is what I'm doing so far." Um
That I thank you. Like that that just imagining that lowered my blood pressure so far just now. Like what a nice idea that you could acknowledge the fact that there are going to be shortcomings or times where a certain concern or impact that is being had or felt you weren't aware of, and
Mhm,
now you are, and you could take measures to address it. You could say, "I'm not going to." That would at least be an answer
mhm,
instead of doing nothing. I mean, you mentioned investigation a moment ago. There was a really good Atlanta News First confrontation at what had been scheduled to be a very positive kind of rah rah ree PR stunt visit to schools on the first day, and I'm very like okay with that, and I support everyone who
mhm,
is a part of the school district. Being involved, going to schools, like sharing in that excitement, like obviously that is a great thing to do. And the system that they all work and are a part of is a good one. I don't knock
mhm.
the whole system ever because I can't. That's part of the reason I'm here.
I
My
mean, that's
concerns,
why a lot of
yeah.
families are in the Cobb County School District. And again, it's why both you and I ran for office with the Cobb County School District because it is a good district.
But that's
Because
not because of it didn't magically happen because of some people who meet once a month. Like
it's
it's
amazingly the
yeah.
advocates and activists that live in this district.
Yes, yeah, I do think it takes everyone.
Mhm,
And I to kind of try and take credit for something singularly is a really odd thing. And if you need that much uh, validation and you want to avoid any sort of criticism, like what on earth are you doing being in one of these roles?
ego stroking
Yeah, yeah,
for
yeah,
our, um, uh, I mean, it's the society we live in for these so-called alpha males. Um,
ugh. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a need for that, and I mean that's unfortunate. And then other people suffer because of it.
mhm,
The workers that you were just talking about, thinking about the word investigation. That's the out over and over. If anything's ever heated or kind of like hot or touchy, is like, oh, we'll investigate that right away.
mhm.
And so then they investigate it. Oh, well, we can't speak on ongoing investigations. Why? Is that a law? If it's an actual legal investigation, okay, I hear you. If it's internal operations and you've discovered something like, oh, I don't know, members of our bus mechanic team, instead of having the proper creepers they need to reach over and into the top of a hood, they're tying together milk crates and climbing
Mhm.
up on those so that they could work on our fleet. Uh, that I don't think that's a secret. It's a bad thing. It shouldn't happen. We can afford all sorts of bells and whistles, but we can't have good tools for our team to use to keep our buses functioning, to keep our kids safe. Like this is good. We all know
Mhm.
about something now that we didn't before. We can help make something better. You don't want to admit a fault, and because of that, now even more harm is being created.
It's like I said, it's historical. I've kind of been watching the school board for quite some time now, and so just even since the time that we've run for office, we've had an investigation about why a student was left out of their graduation. Um,
Mhm.
had an investigation about how school logos represent a Nazi eagle. We've had investigations about, you know, goodness, why certain students are using racist language in a school. Um, and the board and the district never want to take fault, but they also don't want to have the conversation with people. They don't want to say, this is wrong, this should never happen. Um, even and I know so many people hate hearing it, the I'm sorry you feel that way. Um, but sometimes that could go a long way. Acknowledging someone else's feelings. Like, I hear you. I'm going to look into this. This shouldn't have happened. Um, Now we're looking into this. Um, and not giving us the lip service or again the gaslighting into, oh, this was never our fault, we can't take responsibility for it, it was this one person over here and they've been handled. Well, how have they been handled? And funny enough, with the maintenance team issue, we got a new transportation director, didn't we, Andrew?
We did. They proposed that recently and approved it, and it has since come to light that and I am not in HR for the school district. I haven't fully reviewed qualifications and applications and things of that nature. What has been confirmed, though, is rather coincidental, and it's that the 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 new director is next door neighbors with the superintendent. And I'm
Interesting.
not going to speak on obviously uh, professional qualifications, but in general, and even that, if you have the very best candidate in the whole world that lives right next to you, maybe they should come and work for the district. Maybe they can help us improve. But go ahead and say something.
Mhm.
Don't be sneaky and sequester operations and information for fear of public criticism. If it's going to come out, is it a better look to go ahead and acknowledge it now than six
Mhm.
months from now? Does it look like you're hiding if you don't say anything? That that's what gets me with all of this. And then the gaslighting comes up like, oh, well, it's just we shouldn't have to. No, you should. So do it. And it's not hard. Go ahead and be upfront about anything, not just the appointee thing. And maybe it'll be great. I'm not going to speak one way or the other there, but that is a what's the phrase where you're not allowed to be a part of something, like judges will recuse themselves, conflict of interest.
Oh, yes, yes,
That
yes.
yeah, like go ahead and say that and bring it up if it's someone who's going to work for the district, and they're a relative or something like that, you would need to typically be very forthright about that so that it doesn't seem fishy, and you want other people involved to review qualifications or something like that, just to make sure things are as objective as possible. Even then, I don't think they could be, but fully. And if it's a
But
vendor,
I
sorry.
think if no, you're good. I'm sorry. I just think that if everything was above board, these whispers wouldn't have come out about the new transportation director being neighbors with our superintendent. Um, because when we had a safety issue, the superintendent went on a speech, most likely, about why we need a safety director or safety superintendent. I'm forgetting his title right now, and like who it was and why he's being put there. You had the transportation maintenance crew come in, make a complaint, and there is no update on the investigation, whether or not you can legally talk about it. But you could have said, hey, well, along our investigation, it was time for the current transportation director to leave, and now we're hiring this person, but it has nothing to do with what the maintenance crew talked about. It could have been that. But it was kind of just shoved into the HR report of, hey, we have a new transportation director, and this is what's happening. And people are like, well, that's odd. Um, and again, that transparency, that forthcomingness is just not there. Um, and I I think it's not there because they're doing things under the table. Um, whether that's true or not, it's the onus is on them to prove that. If it was because it was time for the transportation director to retire, you could have said that, like, "Hey, our transportation director's retiring. We'll have a new one at the next meeting."
And also,
That
like,
was never
we,
mentioned.
yeah, we've had groups come up, we've received emails about issues XYZ related to this. We are going to be better because of having been made aware from our employees and members of the public.
Mhm,
Period. We're working on it. There's a missed opportunity to create even more strength and shared peace in our little slice of paradise regarding operations of the district. Like, you're
mhm.
right there, and who's going to knock you making things better for our employees? Nobody.
No
I
one.
I just don't
And I
understand it
mean,
now.
I told
Yeah.
someone this before, is that, you know, especially being in Cobb County, for me in East Cobb, people love their kids, they love their schools, they're going to do whatever it takes to maintain having good schools and keeping our schools that way. Um, even those of us who are labeled activists, like, we're not trying to tear down the school. We picked this school district because of what the potential we see. And it's just it's really hard to see that and I think the superintendent knows this, but to for him and district leaders and even certain board members to not have conversations with people because they don't like to have those hard conversations or they don't want to, rationalize why something's happening. That's really sad to see as they are voted in or paid for with our tax dollars.
Yeah, and it lies with them on little policy changes that have big downstream impacts,
Mhm.
and what will come of that. And I don't think no one expects perfection. If you are given a boat, or you make a boat and it has a leak in it, and someone comes along and says, "Hey, I think you should stop the leak." The right move isn't going, "How dare you?" The
Mhm.
right move is like, "Oh my gosh, thank you for pointing that out. We're going to work on that." And
Mhm.
then fix it so that you could get to your destination. I don't think you're losing anything to have faults publicized. And yeah. So that's it. Uh, the last piece is the concern of people not wanting to be broadcast. To me, a fix for that would be then have a little off air 15 minutes before the meeting segment where people can do an extra public comment and
Mhm.
not be documented or part of the formal meeting. Because I totally understand people don't want to be recorded or broadcast, and but they do want to address the whole board at the same time for whatever reason. Here's your chance, and I just there are plenty of other ways to satisfy every single one of these concerns, and if they can't be satisfied, uh, the rest of those concerns have been contrived to sound like legal and corporate and intimidating and formal so that, oh gosh, well, we don't want that. We don't want a big lawsuit now. Cool. Yeah. No, we don't. But there's not going to be one.
Yeah, and before we move into our next part of kinda and it all kinda strings together, is something that I find interesting is that, the people and I do have a lot of neighbors who have a Gadsden flag up with the "Don't tread on me." It's interesting that there is a certain group of people that have been mysteriously quiet about, this censorship. There's 1 or 2 who are speaking up, but they are not in leadership. Um, but, there are things happening that cross party lines that um, shouldn't even be partisan. People speaking up and having the right to have a voice is not partisan. And again, we're talking about what's happening in our district, the safety of our children, um, our children thriving. It's just very interesting to me that there is a certain group, and I will call them out because um, new me, new school year, new me. Uh, Mainly the Cobb GOP, um, or
Formal like
yeah,
operation
they
in
have
town.
not said anything. And we did have some, and I say we as a group. I was not there. I believe you were there, Andrew, at the, press conference with the,
That the legislators put
legislators,
together.
which were
Yeah.
mostly Democrats, but there were some conservative people there too. Because again, this is not a partisan issue. When you are censoring, the access to um, having public comment, everyone should speak up against this. And I'm sure as the school year starts, because of course they did this during the summer when people are mostly on vacation. Um, you'll hear from more groups, whether they're more left leaning or even nonpartisan or multi-partisan, talking about um, why this is problematic, especially when, again, I will keep going back to our motto, we are supposed to be one team.
I completely agree. And when you're speaking just now, I I thought of something I hadn't before where it's uh, the same thing happens on a national level where if you are in the majority at the time and you want to pass some sort of policy or rule or limitation to limit the behavior of the president, there's a philosophy of like, if you do that and things change and you are in the minority for the next uh, term, you might regret passing that because now it's going to work against you or your preferences. And so it might be best to not pass the thing that you want to right now to go after a certain group or individual or whatever because it cuts both ways or can. And I think that is uh is a factor here too of you've now removed something. There could be a world 2, 4 years from now where circumstances are different and you do want awareness being broadcast
Mhm.
and now it won't be. And even that, I think, could and should be a factor of consideration before you're making these sweeping changes just to board yourself up away from society even more for the
And
public
it was
school
asked
district.
of other people, our Cobb Elections Board and our Cobb Commission is democratically run or majority. And, we people were asked uh, if public comment was not broadcast there, how would you feel about that? Who would you blame? Um, and
Oh,
so, and of
as far as
course,
yeah, there would be outrage.
absolutely. And so, again, and of course, the question was flipped. I don't hide that I am a Democrat. Um,
Laura, Laura.
I know it's amazing. Um, but I have been asked, like, hey, like you probably wouldn't have said anything if, and our Cobb Commission chair is Lisa Cupid. Like you wouldn't have said anything if she made this change, and I said, absolutely, I would, because
Yeah, yeah.
I feel that I can talk to, um, not only privately, but I would make public comment. Like, what are you doing? That would have been my first question. What are you doing? Why do you think this is necessary? How does this even
Completely.
work?
Yeah,
Um,
my identity and my views on ideal measures and methods for society sometimes overlap with certain like party behaviors and sometimes not.
mhm,
And I like there is a parameter of ethical behavior that can be breached by anyone. And to your
mhm,
point, like yeah, that I don't have a oh well, it's my team, so I'm not gonna say anything about how the quarterback just had a really bad day
mhm,
and we lost the game. Like, no, that happens. Acknowledge it, fix it. Let's keep going. Let's get better. Let's not hide from the public. It's just odd. I regret anyone who is so limited by their identity and they can't detach it
mhm.
from well, gosh, I mean, I'm going to turn it into therapy if I go down that whole path, but the, the, the need to not violate your own worldview and identity, and the fact that that's so intertwined with a belief system that you can't speak out when you see that something wrong is happening.
Mhm.
That's a red flag.
Yeah.
And I just, if it
It's really
happens,
hard. As a society, we've kind of been going down this path. It's not just limited to Cobb County. It's, you see it nationwide. Is that
that's true.
people are becoming really attached to their political identity versus, just being a good person, having morals, standing up for the Constitution. I'm originally from the North, but being in the South, I hear so much about Second Amendment, and dealing with public comment. That First Amendment is first for a reason, and just, you know, treading on those things is just wild to me. To know that people are like, well, if it's my party treading, it's totally fine.
Yeah, we're not
um,
gonna speak ill of daddy. And
yeah.
it's like, oh,
It's just, I would leave that party. Or, I would not donate money. I would find ways to have conversations, and meetings with the people that I share most of my values with and say that I don't like what you're doing. And I've had those conversations before. It's something so simple to do. But
it is. I've been in line for public comment before, and I've had fantastic, valuable, productive conversations with people whom I am on very different wavelengths from.
mhm,
And there is a Venn diagram overlap with everyone. There's something.
yes.
And also points that uh, like supersede political partisanship. There have been people, multiple public comments, and it's been you could see it because one, it's on video, and two, they wore the shirt. Like, it's someone from Moms for Liberty speaking about something that is just a completely undeniable and justified need in our schools,
Mhm.
and they're not out to take any sort of extremist measure in that moment. They are a member of a group, and they noticed a needed improvement, and they're here asking for that. I I'm not going to knock that. I think that's
Mhm.
valuable, and it's just, I don't know. I hate to see the double standard there, and if if we're ever going to get anywhere, someone's got to give and start to move to the negotiating table. I don't know the right metaphor. Like, we should all, there shouldn't even be a table. We should all be working together.
Not Board of Education, Cobb County celebration. Helping kids, no hesitation. Not Board of Education.